That's a hell of a way to end it, man. Hell of a way to end it.
Oh, tears of joy, boy. Tears of joy.
That was a fun one. That was a fun.
Woo.
That was a fun one,
man.
Hell of a game,
man.
Hell of a game.
Let's do it, baby.
Let's get this sucker started.
Get dialed in, Panthers fans. Here comes an in-depth look at your team. Exclusive interviews. Locker room insight. Ready? Let's huddle up.
Let's just do it, okay?
For Panthers Playbook, driven by Carolina Ford Dealers. Here are your hosts, Dennis Cox and Chris Lea.
Welcome back to another episode of Panthers Playbook. That's Chris Lea, Dennis Cox here with you. Just go ahead and leave your thoughts in the comment section on this beautiful 44-38 overtime win. And Bryce Young balled out, Chris. Bryce Young balled out today. But before we get into all that, Carolina Ford Dealer, your sponsor of Panthers Playbook, with a Ford F-150 on your team. It's game on, so your Carolina Ford dealer today. Chris, we're not going to get into the fact that the Carolina Panthers defense gave up the most points in NFL history in a single
Historically
season.
bad, baby. Historically bad.
I understand.
And yet, there are
17
people
games.
who are like, but the injuries, we should bring back the DC injuries. Okay.
Also, they gave up over 3,000 yards rushing this season, and that happened in regulation. Didn't need overtime for that, obviously, because the defense wasn't out there. But hey, wins are wins. We will take it.
3 overtime wins of the season out of the 5.
Respect. Love that. Love that. And this is something to talk about. This is actually what I was thinking during the game today. This is a glimpse of the future. This is a glimpse of the future. The way that Bryce and Michael Penix both played. Young quarterbacks. Both are going to hopefully continue to grow. This is a glimpse of the future, Chris. It really was.
It was, and one of the things that, just if we're looking at what this matchup could be between Bryce Young and Michael Penix Jr., two guys who have bright futures in the NFL. Michael Penix Jr. did an amazing job. He did nothing. I mean, he had a slow start to the game, but I think that he did enough to win.
Out there, 312.
I honestly believe, I think Michael Penix Jr. has the better team. He has the better offense at his disposal and all of that stuff as well. I honestly, part of me started thinking in the third quarter, I wonder if the Falcons came into this game thinking, okay, Tampa and New Orleans, we can't control that, but we got the Panthers, baby. So we know we're going to win.
Yeah,
and because it really felt like that's how the defense came out and played. It's like, all right, we got the Panthers. Let's just rack up on stats. And they absolutely did not see this coming from Bryce Young. 3 passing touchdowns, 2 rushing touchdowns, having such an incredible game, very efficient, took care of the ball. And also the fact, when's the last time we've seen this? And I don't know. I have to look it up. But the Panthers scored in every single quarter and in overtime. When's the last time we've seen that in a season?
Ooh, good question. That's
every single quarter, there was a score from the Carolina Panthers and in overtime, and back-to-back quarters scoring 14 points each. So between the second and third quarters, you have 28 points.
Yeah.
And there's been times where we've struggled to even score 20 in an entire game. This, let's take Michael Penix out of there. We're done talking about him. He did a great job. Let's talk about Bryce Young and the Carolina Panthers as far as offense.
Yeah.
This is a glimpse into the future of what it could be. This defense, historically bad. And Bryce Young said, all right, I got you.
Oh, yeah. Oh, did he?
And this is the game I think me and you have been looking for all along.
Yeah. 100%. And you know what? The dude balled, man. The dude balled out. The swagger to throw that touchdown pass to Tommy Tremble wide open, but he knew it as soon as he let it go, and to turn around and start throwing up the touchdown sign before he even caught the ball.
Ooh.
Bro.
Ooh.
Like I'm like, dude, like the audacity and the swag. I'm like, okay,
bro,
that's what we wanted to see, that kind of game. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, we had the opinion earlier this season that Bryce was a backup. I might be flipping on that, Chris. I don't know if he's going to be like the upper echelon of quarterback. I don't know if he's the quote-unquote franchise guy, but he's going to be the starter going into 2025. There's no question about that.
Do we want to talk about this a little bit right now?
We can touch on it.
Okay. I will say that at the time, based on what we saw, based on what was in front of us, we were not wrong at that time. we were not wrong. I will stand on what I said at a particular time because I'm literally just basing what I say off of what I see. And like, you can say that, wow, what a turnaround from Bryce Young. Well, you're kind of saying the same thing as we were saying. We just said it in the harsher way, right? So I think we can all agree that there's a huge turnaround here. And when you're saying turnaround, what are you saying? Are you saying that now he's a legit starter in the NFL? Because what is the opposite of that? So
back up.
So I'm not going to apologize for what I said, but I'm going to say now it's not accurate right now as we're sitting here today on January 5th, 2025. It is not accurate right now.
Oh, yeah,
Bryce Young is a future superstar, and he is doing his thing. Boy, what a game from him.
And I can only imagine that no Robert Hunt today, no Chuba Hubbard.
Ooh.
They still need to upgrade at center. And I still think they're a piece on the outside away. But I was like, oh, man, look, the other young guys that he was incorporating. You notice how on that final drive in overtime, who was getting the ball a lot?
Coker.
Jalen Coker.
It was Coker.
I was like, that's what I want to see. Because that dude has reliable hands. He really does. I'm not going to lie. Xavier Legette was mostly quiet today, but that one deep corner route early
right there in the if it was a better pass from Bryce Young, that's a touchdown.
But he had a high point the football.
Boy.
I was like, oh, but that's a play we expect you to make. Even on that little bubble screen where he just did a little turnaround, I think it was Jesse Bates, made a miss, boom, right at the sideline. That's the, hey, we get the ball in your hands, go make a play type thing. That's what we wanted to see. Love seeing Jadeveon Sanders. Hey, we're splitting you out wide, way, way wide.
Hey.
And we're, you sending you down the right sideline. Be a big man and go catch that ball. And that's exactly what happened. I was like, that's what we wanted to see.
Let's stay right here just for a quick second.
All right, right here.
I think
staying right here, Chris.
Let's stay right here.
Right here.
I think today we saw what could happen if you use both of your tight ends, Tommy Tremble, if hopefully he's able to come back. Tommy Tremble and Jadeveon Sanders in the right way. Yeah. Those two as a combination looked amazing today. And it really, I think, helped open up things for the receivers and also helped open up things for the running backs as well. Miles Sanders had a decent day.
Oh, he had a good day.
I
thought he had an overall good day.
I have nothing against Miles. I mean, game-winning touchdown for Miles Sanders, right? So kudos to him. Shout-outs to him. Also, you ran the ball pretty well. I think the last run kind of took his average down a little bit because it's like 3.9 per carry, but he only had to get 1 yard. 66 yards. But then also what I've been saying all along, that touchdown pass to Miles Sanders was simply just play action fake to him, and he just runs free. And you have a linebacker on him, and when you have Miles Sanders as a matchup problem to the defense, and you use him coming out the backfield, you can also use him as a slot receiver, maybe the third option to run the ball. Like, it works to me. It works. Miles Sanders is not a bad piece. He's overpaid for what he is, for what they wanted him to be, right? But if you use him as a receiver / running back combination, and he's just that chess piece that you're kind of moving all around, I think you open up the offense for everybody else. That's just me, though.
Yeah, unfortunately, because you said that overpaid thing, I think Miles Sanders saved his best for last. And that by his best for last game in a Panther
Hey, can I have a job next year? You see what I did?
But you know what? I mean, little sidebar on this real fast, but for him, it was important to show that because he's probably going to be a free agent this season. But I thought it was crucial. We and I talked about it in our episode coming into this game, an opportunity for Dave Canales to talk with his young guys and figure out, hey, what can you work on? What are some different things that we can do? The fact that we have saw Coker, Sanders, Legette get the ball so much, especially in crucial situations, I think was big. And you know what? Dave Canales wasn't afraid to get in his bag a little bit. Hey, Jalen Coker, you're throwing a pass. Hey, Adam Thielen, you're throwing a pass. Yes. I didn't mind that at all. I really didn't mind it at all. And I think it's a positive note. The last half of this season, the way this team finished, the last half of this season, I think is vital. You and I said beginning of the year, a 5-6 win team. They got to 5. They got to that 5 point. I know a lot of people probably be a little bit frustrated because of, hey, the draft position fell and all that kind of stuff. Might be still sitting there in the top 10. We'll have to wait and see things shake out at the end of the day. But again, I love the fight that this team continued to show. They had nothing to play for, but they still went out there and took it. That's what I wanted to see from this team.
I want to bring up Dave Canales as well.
Okay.
This was probably my favorite game from Dave Canales as a play caller.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt like he, I think that with Chuba, something about having Chuba at his disposal makes him overthink just a little bit.
Maybe.
Like, when should I run him? Should I not run him or whatever? He didn't have Chuba, and you have now also you're kind of taking what the defense is giving you as well, and the defense helped you out by having some wide open receivers, but you had Mike Boone. To me, he's showing some tape as well that like you give Mike Boone a chance. He's 4.5 yards per carry. He only had 4 carries, but he's averaging 4.5 yards per carry in this game, right? And when he's had his opportunities, Mike Boone is rushing, giving you over 4 yards per carry every single time. So he's a good piece, and I think somebody needs to give him a shot next year. Maybe the Panthers. Next year.
He's a journeyman veteran guy, but yeah.
If you don't have Miles Sanders, and of course we're not expecting anything from Jonathon Brooks next year. But it was a good, I think, steady diet of the run they ran when they did. There was a few times where I felt like in this situation you probably should have ran instead of doing that. I did feel like at times, especially that 3 and out in the fourth quarter in the last 2 minutes, that at times they try to go for the big 15-yard, 20-yard play a little too much. Let's kind of dink and dunk a little bit. Let's get it out quicker.
Timeouts.
And you had a couple timeouts. So I think there's a few things that were there that were just like, but nothing so glaring that, I came away like wondering like, yo, what is wrong with this guy? I thought it was a very good game plan, very well called game. Few things here and there, again, I think maybe to look at, but overall, when we rag on somebody, I'm also good enough to come back and say, hey, you look good on this one. Hey, you look good on this time around. This was amazing.
38 points in regulation. You ain't gonna argue against that. 38 points in regulation generally should win you a game. Atlanta's probably thinking the exact same thing. But you know what? Which kind of gives us to like the negative side of this one. Again, it's the defense is what it is. This is another 200-yard rushing game, 227 yards rushing allowed by this Panthers defense. And hey, you know what? You can't say, well, it's because of overtime. Atlanta didn't get the ball in overtime. So you can't say that. Remember correctly, I know the Falcons just had 200-plus yards. The Bucs had 200 yards last week. The Cardinals had 200 yards a couple weeks ago. Cowboys had 200-plus yards. Eagles had 200-plus yards. The Bucs before that had 200-plus yards. And then go back even before that, the Kansas City Chiefs in their game had 165. So 6 straight games of 200-plus yards allowed rushing by this defense to close out the year. 6 straight. 6 straight, Chris. Something's going to have to change at some point. I don't know if it's going to be Evero, but at some point, you have to sit there and look and say, all right, you gave up 3,000 yards rushing this season. Personnel, that's going to turn over. But again, Dave Canales really has to sit there and look and say, is it the scheme? Something's got to be different. There's no way at the end of the season that someone doesn't take the fall, if that makes sense. Someone's going to take the fall.
Shout outs to my guy, Josh Graham, who's a host of the Drive with Josh Graham in the afternoons in the Triad area on WSJS. One of my good friends, me and him were having a debate and a back and forth on Twitter during the game about Evero. His take is, look at all the injuries, look at the bad hands he was dealt. He couldn't help that, Luvu and Burns aren't back. He can't help that Shaq went down with an injury early in the season. He can't help that after one game he didn't have Derrick Brown because he went down with an injury. And I get that. And here's my response to this. He's not the first defensive coordinator or the first coach in NFL history to have his side of the ball being ravaged by injuries.
Oh, look at Detroit.
I was literally about to say, look up north to Detroit. Yeah. Right? Like, they've lost so many players on their defense, and yet they're still able to show up and get wins. They're still able to show up and get stops when they need to get stops. And no, I'm not going to compare Detroit's personnel to Carolina's personnel because Detroit's personnel overall is so much better.
Sure.
Overall and on defense. But also, let's not forget the fact that even with all the folks that you lost last year, and I contend he inherited a really good defense. Don't look at last year and say, well, look at last year. He had a top 5 defense. He inherited everybody who came back. It was already there. You couldn't mess that up. Now, he did lose a lot of folks. And then, of course, injuries and stuff reared their ugly head. But you also had so many guys that were signed because they wanted to play for you and come back in your system.
Mm-hmm.
And what we were sold was they're going to be comfortable in their plug and play, and maybe the Panthers could still have something comparable to what they had last year. I don't think anybody expected a top 5, maybe at least a top 20. Give me top 20. But like this, it wasn't acceptable this year. It was not acceptable this year. And I like him as a coach. I think he has a bright future as a coach. But for right now, for this position, for this franchise in this moment, I don't think he's the best chance for the Panthers defense to get better in the future. And that's all I'm saying. I'm not going to say anything negative about him. Ejiro Evero, I think, again, could probably be a great head coach one day. But for this franchise at this moment, for going for the future, it's not it. We got to move forward.
Yeah, there are plenty of other teams out there that have suffered a ton of injuries on defense and have had terrible personnel on defense and never gave up 3,000 yards rushing in a season, and also didn't give up the most points ever in a single season in NFL history. Simple as that. Again, I know the injuries are what they are, but you still got to go out there and find a way to put guys in spots to at least, I don't know, alleviate some of the pressure. You still gave up 38 today. Bijan Robinson, in and of himself, had 170 yards rushing. Like, like, what more can you do? Heck, Tyler Algier had 52. And it's, again, I've even had people trying to say, well, what about scrambling quarterbacks and stuff? I was like, no, the Bengals had their best rushing performance of the season. Joe Burrow had one scramble for 10 yards in that game. It's things like that. So it's not just, running quarter. You didn't play Lamar.
Yeah.
You didn't play Josh Allen. Okay, you played Jalen Hurts. But that's about it. Anyway, overall, I'm so happy that this game was won by Carolina.
Yes.
It was a fun game. I was sitting back just having fun. Fun, Chris. And you know what? Fun way to end the season, man. Fun way to end the season.
But going back to what we've said, we've been saying this for the last couple of weeks.
Mm-hmm.
When you end the season with a win, it feels good, and it's a good carryover, especially for the guys who are going to be back.
Yeah.
And now, how the season started, like the disaster of a start it was, right? Let's remember that. Let's remember how disastrous those first 2 games were.
Let's not forget. To
how it ended. And to get that win, to pull it out, and Bryce Young being responsible for 4 of the 5 wins since he came back in the starting lineup, and 3 of them are in overtime, shows his growth, shows the growth of the offense in general. To me, you have 2 legit young receivers that you can build on. I like David Moore. I'm not sure of his contract situation. If there's room for him, okay, come back as maybe like a 5th option for next year, right?
He's a 5'6" guy.
I hope Adam Thielen is able to come back. I think he's the backbone of this core until we get a legit guy that we can really lean on as number 1. Try to bring in somebody who can be number 1.
He still has 1 year left on his deal.
We need a deep threat as well.
Mm-hmm.
And hey, also, I'm going to say it. Got to figure out a way to make it work with Timo. Taylor Moton.
Oh yeah. We'll dive into some of the offseason stuff.
Yeah, we'll talk about another, but we gotta figure out a way to make it work with him.
Yeah, it's amazing when he was back in the lineup. Like, oh, pass protection, all that stuff was so much better. Run game was so much better. Go figure.
And so, and also, we hadn't talked about him a lot this year. We ragged on him a little bit at the beginning of the season. Shout out to Ike Ekwonu. He came back
pretty
this
good year. Overall, pretty good year.
Came back. And
overall,
like we have to give it to him. Ian Thomas, good to know you. Good luck.
Never knew him.
Good luck. But if the Panthers, and again, we'll talk about this later, if the Panthers can retain Tommy Tremble, You have a great two guys right there between Tommy Tremble and JT Sanders for the future at tight end. I'm looking forward to it. Now let's really focus on defense. And if we can have the same type of growth on the defensive side as we had on the offensive side, you're looking at a team that could possibly get 7-8 wins next year. Could possibly, depending on what the division looks like, maybe be in the running at the end of the year to potentially win the division. So we'll have to see.
That we will, but we need you to leave your thoughts in the comment section on this game. But also, Carolina Ford Dealer, your sponsor of Panthers Playbook with the Ford F-150 on your team. It's game on, so your Carolina Ford Dealer today. We will have another episode for you guys later on this week. So again, make sure you are subscribed and stay locked in. And Chris,
and potential emergency episodes too, just in case.
Just hit that notification bell. That way you don't miss anything in case, things might happen. We'll see you guys later on this week.
Keep
pounding!
Keep
pounding!